على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. أما بعد، أحبتي في الله، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. حياكم الله. أسأل الله الكريم رب العرش العظيم أن يتولنا في الدنيا والآخرة. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us in this life as well as the next. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us of our many sins, rectify our condition and affairs, bless us to be of those who are the mutamassikina bi kitabillah wa bi sunnati rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Ahabati fillah, a question or questions were asked from one of our brothers in New York, and we won't mention his name, nor will we mention some of the people and some of the places he mentioned. However, the important thing is to know how to deal with these issues. So he asked two questions. The first question, ahabati fillah, had to do with learning the Arabic language and learning from Arabs, a preference to learn from Yemenis or this one or that one. What's very important is if you're unable to traverse and travel the land to go study the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to go and study Islam and to study the Arabic language, then there are many online means for studying. And perhaps there are local places to study. It is not important that you study from an Arab. It is important that you study from someone who has itqan in the language of Arabiya, meaning someone who has proficiency. They are strong in the Arabic language and they can teach you what you need to learn, okay? They can teach you what you need to learn, and they are a competent teacher, an educator, one who educates others. This is first and foremost should be your priority, because so many Arabs don't know the Arabic language. What I mean is they don't know grammar, they don't know all the aspects of the Arabic language, the depth, balagha, sarf, all these different sciences of Arabic. This is something which is learned. It is not passed down just simply by tradition or bloodline. So although for pronunciation, in general, you will find perhaps some, a better scenario by learning with a native speaker, that doesn't mean they're competent. For example, you can't go on the street in New York or in Seattle, Washington, or any other place and just say, well, hey, I found a native speaking English speaker. Let me learn English from this person because they're a native speaker. No, they can teach you Amiya, how to speak English, slang, and things like this, but they are not competent to teach you grammar just because they're a native speaker. Likewise, this applies to learning Arabic. So learn from those who are competent. And I'm sure if you are in the West, in a place where there's a large group of Muslims, that you will find people who know the Arabic language who can teach you. Maybe there's a Sudanese brother in the Masjid. Maybe there's a Somali brother in the Masjid who knows Arabic, who's muta'allim, who studied, or an Indonesian, or anyone, or an American, or a Canadian, or a British, from those lands. It doesn't matter. What matters is that they know Arabic and they can teach you competently. So that's number one. That's the first issue. The second issue, ahabati fillah, that was mentioned by our brother. He mentioned a common issue. We have it in the UK on steroids. We have it in America on less steroids. We have it in Canada. We have it in France. We have it in many places, especially in Western countries, this issue. And that is whether to go to a lecture or go to a particular masjid. Now, let me tell you first and foremost, set the pace. Myself, since I was asked a question, if I am in a city, yes, I do prefer to go to a masjid that's a masjid of Ahl Sunnah. But I don't do in-depth research necessarily. I want to go pray to Allah. I'm looking for a place that they face the Qibla and they worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. because I'm going to do my 5 daily prayers, or I'm a traveler, or what have you. I don't know necessarily the background, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala often favors me to find something that they're from Ahl Sunnah, or at least it's a place to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the point is, your salat is valid as long as the imam is a Muslim and doesn't make mistakes in his, in reciting Surah Al-Fatiha that changes the meaning. So your salat is sound. As far as aligning yourself, don't go to this masjid, don't go to that masjid, because Shadid Muhammad gave a speech there. Muhammad Mufti teaches there. Tahir Wyatt visited there. Abu Khadija said this, or he went there. No, those aren't the criterion. Those aren't the criterion. But the criterion is, as far as you're studying the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's Allah's religion, it's not mine, it's not anybody else's, is that when you go to study, you want to study from people who adhere to the book of Allah and the sunnah of the messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. You want to study from people who are going to teach you khair. They're going to teach you how to come closer to Allah, and they are from the people of Ahl Sunnah. So I'm not telling you to go to the Deobandis or the Naqshbandis or the Tijaniya or any Sufi Turk. And I'm not telling you to go seek knowledge from someone who's known to be from the group of Ikhwan Muslimin, or who is a takfeeree, who makes takfir of the Muslims for their sins, or who criticizes and spends their effort speaking about the rulers. I'm not telling you to study with those people. Abadan. Never. But I'm telling you, wherever the people are callers to the sunnah, regardless if they have a mistake here, or several mistakes there, that as long as they are a caller to the sunnah, that's what I'm saying, then of course you study. Because as our Sheikh Suleiman Raheli mentioned very beautifully, when he was talking about the people who were warning against Sheikh Ibrahim Raheli many years ago, and he was talking about how these people, Sheikh Ibrahim's going here, and the people warn against him, and this, and the Sheikh Suleiman Raheli replied, he said, Qitta Turk. He said, these people are wicked robbers, barons of the road. Meaning, for example, that's a big thing. It's a big mas'ala in fiqh. You'll find this in the fiqh books, that they talk about the hukm, the ruling, the hudud of the person who is who robs people on the path. They call them qitta turq, that they are people who are, in English, I can't think, we say like a road baron, or they are, robbers on the road. There's a word for it. But anyhow, ala kulli hal, ahabati fillah, that Sheikh Suleiman Raheli described those people who were warning about gaining the benefit. I think it was from Sheikh Salih Suhaimi and maybe Sheikh Ibrahim Raheli. It might have been a conference in the UK some years ago. He said, these people are qitta turq. They are the people who cut off the good path. They're like highway robbers. They cut off the road to what? To good. And so be careful. There are so many people that they are fixated, and a lot of times they have hizbiyah anyway. They love only their crew. They make tazkiyah for their crew, people who agree with them only, not based on the book and the sunnah, but based on their own personal criterion, not according to the minhaj of the salaf, but their own personal criterion and their desires. So then what they will do is they will spend their time warning against scholars. Some of these people didn't even study Islam. They studied for a week here in Saudi Arabia, a week there in Kuwait, a week there in whatever. But they didn't sit under the beards of the scholars for years. They don't have that. They don't have that ni'mah. But yet they'll sit in the UK and other places and they will warn, oh, Sheikh Salih Suhaimi is here. He agreed with Sheikh Mohammed bin Hadi. They're both mahjur. We don't do this. Don't go see this. You are in the land of kuffar. You are in the land where people worship dogs and cats and rats and roaches and private parts. Don't think it don't happen. I work with people at work and they worship everything under the sun, including the sun. Some of them, they worship Greek gods. Some of them worship Thor. They practice a religion called the Santu or something like this. It's a Asachu, which is some sort of Viking religion. Wallah musta'an. You're living in those lands, but yet you don't want to go to a scholar who is known for calling to the book of Allah and the sunnah of the messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and adhering to the madhab of the Salaf, and has tazkiyat kathira, has a lot of praise from other scholars of the Sunnah, and studied under imams of the Sunnah in this time. You don't want to study with them because so-and-so in Birmingham, so-and-so in Croydon, so-and-so in Hull, England, that they made warnings against the people and they haven't even studied, perhaps. That's sickness. And those people fall under that of being qata turk. As Sheikh Suleiman al-Rahili described them, being cutters off, they cut off the road to good. You do not want to lose your benefit. Let's talk about some examples. I was in Yemen, probably the first time I was in Yemen. And I remember a lot of us were wondering where to study. You know, some of us, we couldn't stay and handle the environment of Damaj, you know, hyenas, bugs, giant monster bugs like this big and this big jumping out of my ceiling at night. And I needed to marry. So I left. I stayed for a few months, you know, using the bathroom, and it's flooding in your room and just all kind of stuff. It was a little tough. Not everybody's cut out for that. So I knew a lot of brothers who stayed in Sana'a, in the capital of Yemen, and they would look for places to study. But there was always someone to put it down, say, no, don't study. You know, none of us had that strong Arabic, and people are telling them, no, don't pay your money and go study to an Arabic language institute. Why? Because we think the mudir, the supervisor, is a Khwani. You are going to learn alif bata. You are going to learn hadha bait and things like this that do not have any minhajiyah or itiqad behind it. You are cutting yourself off when you leave all the way from the UK, when you leave all the way from Canada, when you come all the way from the United States to study and learn your deen. You spent your last bit of money to get the ticket, and you're living in Sana'a, Yemen, and you're going to say, those guys are Khwani, I'm not going to study, so I'm going to sit here in Sana'a and study with an American who was a good brother, one of my beloved brothers. But no, that is cutting off the path. You did not come all the way to sit in a brother's house, drink tea, and occasionally study. You have an opportunity, unique opportunity. Likewise, people go to Egypt, the same thing. We don't want to study at this institute. We don't want to study at this institute because we might get influenced. No, you spent your hard-earned British pounds, your hard-earned Canadian dollars to get there. And then you're going to let someone discourage you? No, I don't call to that abadan. But rather, I don't call you to study with Ahl Bidah. At the same time, things are not going to be perfect. If you have an opportunity to study the Quran, to study the Arabic language somewhere, and you don't have a choice from Ahlus Sunnah, and you've spent your wealth and your time and your property and your everything else, then benefit. And this is in light of what some of our scholars have said. And I'm talking about imams like Imam Fawzan, and you can look it up for yourself to get an actual fatwa about those. And even Imam Muqbil, we were there in Sana'a. Brothers asked him questions about studying at a university for Ikhwan Muslimin. And Sheikh Muqbil said, for your situation, because you know their danger, you know about these groups, okay, you and your family can't get to Damaj for whatever reason, maybe the health reasons for your children and your finances or whatever, no problem. Yes, you go study with them because you left the UK to get Arabic and to get your, learn your deen. But beware of the evils of those guys in their Ikhwan Muslimin da'wah. Be careful of that. But for you, because you're asking for this fatwa, because your unique situation, falls under that. So this is why it's so important. Don't paint things as black and white and think they're as black and white as you may perceive. Now let's get back to our brother in New York, dealing with a lot of this fitna. So what I would say to you, my brother in Islam, is study your religion. If that's the only place where you're getting knowledge, and I personally think you're going to benefit a lot from if it's Sheikh Tahir or Sheikh Muhammad Munir and so forth, that you're going to gain benefit. They're going to call you. They're not going to call you to something strange. Doesn't mean they don't make mistakes. Who doesn't make mistakes? The Prophet ﷺ said, Kullu ibn Adam khata. All the children of Adam khata, make mistakes. And the best of those are those who repent. But however, what you're going to be taught, you're not going to be taught Sufism. You're not going to be taught to be a takfeeree. You're not going to be taught to the methodology of Ikhwan Muslimin. You're not going to be told to make khuruj with the takfiris or khuruj with Jamaat al-Tabligh. You're not going to be called to any of those bid'ahs and any of those manahij, but rather they're going to teach you from the books of the Salaf and the books of Ahlul Sunnah, and they're going to call you to the books of Ahlul Sunnah. So I say, learn and benefit. I don't say take the good and believe the bad. That's you have to be careful of that, okay? In one way, this is truth, and in one way, this could be false. It's truth when you're talking about a scholar, a student of knowledge, or someone from Ahlul Sunnah. Their asl, their usul is Ahlul Sunnah, okay? So, of course, they make mistakes. You can't take anyone's mistakes. So you're taking the good, leaving the bad. Ahl Bid'ah, whose usul, his usul is looking like this. This is Yasir Qadi. This is probably Haqiqatu. I don't know his name, and I don't want to disrespect him in that respect. Daniel, who else? Haji, all these Mubtadi'ah. People who don't teach you the book and the Sunnah based on the manhaj of the Salaf, but based on instead of all kind of other ideologies, theories, concepts, political rhetoric, whatever. That, no, we can't call you to take the good and the bad from them because their usul is not the usul of Ahlul Sunnah. Otherwise, you just pick and choose, and you wouldn't even have the tools to pick and choose. And that's why you stick with those whose usul, who are on the book and the Sunnah and the minhaj of the Salaf, and that which you're aware of is a mistake, you cannot take it. It doesn't matter who said it. And the people of Bid'ah, if someone speaks the truth, you have to take it because it's the truth. But you don't need to listen to the people of Bid'ah. That's the point. I don't say sit in their halaqat. I don't say follow their lectures. I don't say go to their social media platforms. Abadan, do not run, rush, safeguard your religion, protect your deen, stay away from that nonsense. So, in light of what our brother asked, I hope that gives us some insight that you don't need to do a major investigation before you go pray in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's homes. In al-masajid lillah fala tad'u ma'allahi ahada. The masajid, the mosques, the masajid, they're the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And do not supplicate to anyone, anyone or anything besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Worship Allah. When you're going to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you know it's a place that has bid'ah mukaffara, don't pray there. For example, if they're grave worshipping Sufis, they are, have some bid'ah which takes you out of the fold of Islam. They believe in supplicating to the dead. They believe their sheikh made Hajj yesterday out of the season of Hajj. He's fasting Ramadan before Ramadan. Okay, these kind of things, and people claim to know the unseen. No, you don't pray behind people like that. Wa'iyadun billah wa iyyakum minhum, but rather search out those places of benefit. So seek knowledge from Ahlul Sunnah and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wherever. If Maghrib comes in, which is coming in soon, and I don't make it to the home because I'm far from Masjid, there's only one Masjid in this whole city, and no one prays there, unfortunately, anyway, except for Jumu'ah, then I'll pray here in this park, in this grass somewhere, if I don't make it home in time. So the point is, ahabati fillah, the ard, ju'ilat al-ard, masjidin. The earth has been made as a masjid. So don't prohibit yourself and say, the brothers warned against this one. I can't pray in there. You're going to pray Allah. Pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're going to praise Allah. You're going to pray to Allah. It's not based on what the brothers say. So be careful of letting that dictate. Yes, you'll find confusion. You found it in the past. You find it now, and you're going to find it in the future. Once you realize confusion and fitna will not cease, it's never going to be kumbaya. It will not be kumbaya between the sects and between even a lot of people from Ahlul Sunnah. There are some scholars from Ahlul Sunnah. They will never sit together again. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. So your job is not to get your heart caught up. Oh my gosh, look at the split between Sheikh Rabi and Sheikh Muhammad bin Hadi. Look at the Sheikh, look at what Sheikh Suleiman or Haley. Look at this one, Imam Abdul Mustin said, Imam Fawzan said, Imam Abdulaziz al-Rajihi, he praised this Hizbi. That stuff is never going to cease. That stuff is never going to cease. So you base your religion on your worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and don't get caught in the fitna. And that's why you hear Imam Fawzan always say the small students and the general people should not even be dealing with this. And when fitna comes between the scholars, they shouldn't even be dealing with this kind of stuff at all. That stuff, that's not their job. If you want to say it's above their pay grade, so to speak, because if you don't have knowledge and the tools to be able to deal with fitna, well, then what are you going to do? You're going to fold. And even there are so many students of knowledge that were blind followers of certain scholars. And when they split, literally, one of the Arab countries, I'll just say it's an Arab country. I'm not going to say which one. But when back in the day, when Sheikh Rabi and Sheikh Faleh fell out, and all the fitna that came with that, between certain scholars and so forth, and things became clear about Sheikh Faleh, this guy was such a blind follower of Sheikh Faleh that it was reported that this guy was trying to jump out a window. Why? Because who were they worshiping? Who were they following? They were blind following scholars. They were blind following people. Their emotions, their ta'assub, their prejudice, everything was tied up in that. You cannot do that. You are here to worship Allah. We love the scholars that as Imam Malik mentioned, La yuraf al-haq bi-rijal, walakin yuraf al-rijal bil-haq. We don't know the truth by men, we know the men by the truth. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Almighty, to accept our good and forgive our evil. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Hayyakum Allah. May Allah bless us in you and forgive us in you and guide us in you. If there's any questions on our way out of this freezing cold park, then we will do our best by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to try to entertain them and do what we can, inshallah ta'ala. Wa alaikum salam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allah yubarak fikum ikhwanana fi Toronto and other than Toronto. T-Dot. I haven't been. I want to go sometime, inshallah. Highway robbers, exactly. Sounds like Salafi publications. I don't know. One of the best channels. Allah understand. As a student in the UK with vague access to all of the du'at in the West, is it recommended to try to rectify between S-pubs and other masajid? Rectification is always khair. But the reality is, and that's my belief. This is a personal belief. This is my right. This is my opinion. I know this from scholars that a lot of scholars, I know Sheikh Faleh, for example, may Allah forgive us in him. He was a caller to Hizbiyah, definitely, without doubt. But he died on that. He died hating some of those people who were once his buddies. They hated each other, the things they said about one another, and even his last writings, the things that he wrote, the kind of hatred they had for people who were once their brothers, who they grew up probably in high school together, and they studied in Islamic universities together with scholars together, but he died, and the kind of hatred, no. And that comes a little bit with the stubborns of the Arabs, but especially the Bedouin Arabs. That's one issue. Another issue is that's just the way, even between the du'at. The reality is that has been tried, scholars have tried to rectify that. So don't even think about it. It's not even that, it's the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some people, they split because of Hizbiyah. It doesn't matter which, that means there are Hizbis amongst all parties. Doesn't mean this party is a pure Hizbi group. No, what I say is that there's Hizbis amongst all the people. There's Hizbis who get together who hate public Salafi pubs. There are people in Salafi pubs who are pure, cold-blooded, stark, cold Hizbis, okay? They blind follow them and their crew, okay? But not everyone fits that description. Then they all have fanboys and cheerleaders. That's real. Let's be real. No one is blind about that. This is not new information to most people. So there's always going to be this concept of al-wala wal-bara based on personalities, which is batil, it's false. However, it's important, again, to hold on to the book and the sunnah and stay away from those personalities and all that madness, instead of allowing those things to get in your way and cloud your judgment and make you have love and hate based on personalities. So to make a long story short, those Masajid, in my view, will never be together. Never. Because how many people that are really on the exact same thing? I'm not even talking about the big Masajid. I'm talking about how many splits, for example, espubs in their emirats, you know, their emissaries, their various Masajid that are affiliated with them. How many of those guys said the wrong thing and now they're no longer with them? And then they speak about each other. So many splits. I know personally. I know, I don't want to say hundreds, but I know tens of people who are hardcore Salafi pubs, people and friends and group, you know, whatever, who hate them and gave me plenty of inside stories. And then I know some that are big callers with them now. And I know the inside. Some we traveled, we ate together, we did everything together. So those things will never, in my view, will never be rectified. So I don't say it's useful to put your energy there. Your energy is saving yourself and your family from the fire and doing the best to rectify around you. And one of the best ways that you can rectify things is doing talib al-ilm, speaking until you're in the grave. That's what I try to do. That's what I try to do, is try to teach what I have learned. Those principles, those usul, those things that our scholars told us to adhere to, that are in accordance with the book and the sunnah, and that we can see, according to the madhab of the Salaf, bi'idni rabbina, that's what I want to teach you. I want to teach you those tools. I don't care who necessarily, I don't want you to listen to Mubtadi'ah, but I'm not so concerned about influencing you. Don't listen to him, listen to him. You don't hear me call to that. You hear me try to give you the tools of knowledge, because it's only going to come through ilm, so that you can make your own decisions. I want you to have tools to make your own decision. And what we see from the Minhaj of the Salaf and from many of our beautiful scholars, and I'm thinking of one right now, right off, I'm not going to mention his name, but I love Shaykhana in Medina. But he focuses on what? On building the hearts, cleaning the hearts. That's all he's teaching. Ibn al-Qayyim, this, that. He's teaching you how to rectify yourself. And he also deals with Ahl Bid'ah, but he doesn't speak a lot about individuals. Now, I'm not saying that has its place, but if someone's teaching you only that, only a certain aspect of the deen and not helping you to protect yourself and your soul, what are you going to have in a few years? You're going to know about individuals, but you might not be able to read Surah Al-Fatiha properly. And when fitna comes in your life, maybe you just leave Islam. We've seen it countless times. So work on your heart until you're in the grave. Because any of us, as the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّ أَحَدَكُمْ لِيَعْمَلُ بِعَمَلِ أَهْلِ الْجَنَّةِ حتى ما يكون بينه وبينها إلى ذراع فيسبق عليه الكتاب فيعمل بعمل أهل النار فيدخلها. Or كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم. He said, one of you will be an arm span's length from paradise, and then what was written will overtake him. He will do the deeds of the people of the hellfire, and then he will enter it. And then the opposite. One of you will do the deeds of the people of the hellfire, and then what was written will overtake him, and he will do the deeds of the people of paradise and enter it. Allahu Akbar. The scary thing about that, Habibti Fillah, and what a lot of the scholars mention, is it shows us that we want to have a good death. Meaning we want to die upon the book, the sunnah, and the madhab of the salaf, with our hearts seeking the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the hope that Allah forgives us and accepts our good deeds. This is how you want to meet Allah, with a qalbun salim, with a clean heart. So if you spend your time speaking about individuals, talking about this one, wasting time on this one, getting caught up in social media antics and posts, then what if you die in that state? And what will you have in the long term? So building yourself as a Muslim is really something, it's constant. But the Prophet ﷺ said, Ala wa hiya qalb. Verily, it's the heart. Verily, it's the heart. Work on your heart. Work on your heart. And then the other things will follow. Because all of those acts of worship, even the science of Jarh wa Ta'dil, for example, the muhaddithin, the people of hadith, they worked on their hearts. Some of them would make rakatain before they would speak about the people of bid'ah and collect hadith and things like this, and make wudu for reading hadith and memorizing hadith and things like this. Where are we? We will quickly do a sin and then speak about somebody else's sin. So they viewed it as ibadah, as worship, coming closer to Allah. We view it as a type of hizbiyah to get more people popular, get more popular with the people, so that we get a fan base, we can get money. Some of the people are building a lot of money from dawah, capitalizing on dawah. People are doing all kind of crazy stuff, not in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not in accordance and cleaning their heart and trying to spread the good and help others clean their hearts. So that's what dawah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should be. It should not be profit seeking. May Allah forgive us and guide us and help us all to be better. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Should we not praise people? No, there's nothing wrong with praising someone who you benefited from, but don't overpraise them. Don't break their back. Don't cause them harm. Don't give them ayn. But you know, you could say, Shaykhana, I love our Shaykh. May Allah bless him and preserve him. Make dua for them. That's the best praise. Make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for them. Are we the ark builders praying the flood that will sweep the globe? I don't know. May Allah help us. When someone tries to advise us with nonsense, well, then you avoid it. Should we just dismiss them? Of course. If they're advising you with nonsense, what is the benefit of nonsense? We know that from common sense. From common sense, it's not even something we have to, you know, the shara shows us that, our common sense shows us that. Somebody's giving you garbage, don't take it. Garbage stinks. Sorry, I'm going to miss some of your things because I'm in a hurry to get home. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with ikhlas, with tabat, wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.